I'm not sure that there's a lot of introductions that need to be made about SciFY. It's really a great pleasure for me to have the SciFY people with us today. George and Alexandros will present, but there's a whole team that we work closely with, and I'm very happy about that. I think SciFY is having a very unique contribution in the field of AI, and we'll hear more about that today. The floor is yours.
Thank you very, very much, George. And it's quite weird because I feel at home, because actually I'm more at home or equally at home with in Demokritos and also in SciFY. So hello everyone. I see many well-known and well-loved names in the list of participants today. So I'm very happy to be here with my second, let's say, aspect, because the first aspect is a researcher at NCSR Demokritos. And I will also, so my role here today is as the CEO and co-founder of SciFY. And I'm also very happy to introduce perhaps few of you who do not already know Alexandros, to introduce Alexandros Tzoumas, who is our CTO, Chief Technical Officer. So hello everyone. We are going to talk about how SciFY brings technology and research results as solutions to everyday life. But you will see that the scope of this effort we call SciFY is quite wider. But let's start to get to know what SciFY is about. So SciFY is a technological, not-for-profit company that solves real-life problems by doing essentially four things. We will meet them, see them again and again. We share technology, we manage innovation, we spread knowledge, and we build communities. These are so much, so important, let's say, pillars of what we do, that, as I said, we will meet them again and again. You know, we've heard these buzzwords, especially as part of European projects, one too many times, I would say. But actually, SciFY was created back in 2012 exactly to cover the things that we have seen being promised, but oftentimes not delivered. And again, the aim of SciFY is to bridge scientific innovation with society's needs. Now, some photos with their own meaning, but also a brief history, let's say, of SciFY's profile. As I said, we were born back in 2012. This makes it as a 10-year-old now company. Nowadays, we have 8 employees and approximately 10 volunteers, but still more than 140,000 beneficiaries. I cannot express my gratitude, the happiness I feel for being able to touch the lives of 140,000 people and more, even more, during these last 10 years. And I will share a couple of stories afterwards, but let's keep this short for now. Let me say that if you started a not-for-profit technology company during the crisis, saying that you will bring research results to everyone, at least you would be laughed at, right? Even though, because I'm very, very happy to have the colleagues I have in Demokritos, it was a different approach, but still people were very preserved. The effort has proven that it makes sense. So we have many awards, national and international, for innovation and accessibility, for NLP, natural language processing-based AI applications. We are also at the top 5 of NGOs in Greece concerning transparency, effectiveness, and organizations by an open study, Thalis 2 study. So we are not only active, but recognizably so. Okay. Now, these are only a few of the organizations and, let's say, funding sources we have with collaborators. By the way, a very, very basic comment. I am let's say, a spin-off, as George, a spin-off of Demokritos, who actually returned back to Demokritos again. But SciFY is not a spin-off of Demokritos. So it has its own existence. Of course, as George says, we are very close together with Demokritos, and this is why the logo of Demokritos is very big in this picture also. They are in the bottom right. But what we need to show by this is that we collaborate with amazing institutions, companies, funding bodies around the world. And we are very, as I said, we're very proud to be doing so. Now, how we bring the results? We bring the results through four main, let's say, avenues of actions. So we create viable solutions. This was the original stake here. So as I said, European projects typically may have their outcomes put on a shelf at best, gathering dust over time. But SciFY, we say we create, products, even charge with a zero price. So open source product, but still it's a product. And we make our products viable solutions, sustainable over time. So we knew what sustainability was about before it became such a strong hype word. How do we do this? We mobilize a supporting community. So we form a community of change makers. And this is very important. So we start by understanding a community, imagine the accessibility community, the information technologies business industry, the maritime industry, so on and so forth. We try to understand by talking to people there. And we identify those eager and willing to innovate in there, to change things. And we ask what they feel their needs are. So essentially, we create this supporting community that can help form sustainable solutions. Then what we do is we create free digital solutions there, oftentimes by applying innovation management, by making sure that we bring into into play the technology needed to provide these solutions. And one of the, let's say, most important contributions we have, as I see it at least, is actually the knowledge sharing part. We will see many, let's say, outcomes that contribute towards this end, the knowledge sharing, disseminating the knowledge of things. What are our impact areas? The first is assistive technologies. So we create technologies for people with accessibility problems, and we try to help them be free, given their status and difficulties and challenges, societal and also technological. A second pillar is artificial intelligence, and this is mostly why we're here. By the way, these individual impact areas are not siloed, so we have interactions. We also contribute to startups and innovation to helping them create their own value. We contribute to e-democracy, to participation, because as I said, to be able to mobilize the community, you want them to contribute, right? So this is why we have become very active in the e-democracy aspect. And we also have a quite weird role. We have become, but natural, if you think of it, because we are a not-for-profit, we understand not-for-profits. So we have become the IT colleague of all civil society in Greece, and perhaps also of several partners abroad. And there is a horizontal impact area, which is a training and education aspect. We have what we call SciFY Academy, which has thousands of people who actually have benefited from this action, and we will say more about this later. So I said that we are over 140,000 people. By October 2020, so we're trying to update our impact every year, but I didn't manage to get 2021's numbers. So we measure our direct and indirect beneficiaries, and you will see that across all domains we have a significant number of people. And of course, there is a hidden number of implicitly touched lives through, for example, our applications, through our the sharing we do, and our contribution to policy making. And we are very happy about this. And this is why actually we have this hashtag where good things happen, because we need this and we actually do this. Now, because we have lots of researchers here, I will be very targeted to say that we contribute to actual technology transfer, and we have been doing this from day one. Now, the researcher's problem, I'm also a researcher, I know things, and other people in SciFY are researchers. There's a challenge exploiting what you do, putting it into action into the community and disseminating your achievements. This is challenging, and this is very required. So we can help the researchers do this. There is also a business problem. They do not know how to tap into scientific knowledge and breakthroughs to gain a competitive advantage. This has changed completely during the last couple of years because people are actually reaching out to us because they want to apply AI, but still they do not know exactly how to do. And there's the citizens problem, right? The citizens problem is to understand and contribute to change, to co-create the artificial intelligence they need. And they are not always aware, citizens, we are not always aware of how things will change our lives. Now, so SciFY contributes to all three, let's say, challenges there in different ways that we will examine later, but I would like to stress something about technology transfer. Typically, we understand this as a lab-to-market process. And when we say this, we expect simply that we will create a wrapper, an emballage, if you like, of around our technology or our contribution, and we will put it out in the market, and it has a price tag, and we are done. But this is not the case, actually. So for the example of the COVID vaccines, was it the fact that the vaccine was not effective that made things go perhaps quite awry in several aspects? So I think you might have missed me for 1 second. I will repeat what I said. So in the COVID case, the COVID vaccines, we did not allow perhaps people to somehow be part of this process early enough so that they would build trust. And also in AI systems, this is a second case. We have huge leaps, we have ethics challenges, and the human is the center of it all. So bringing society into the equation in innovation is vital for successful tech transfer. And this is what we do. Now, if I want to summarize the key achievements regarding SciFY and artificial intelligence, we have been showcased by collaboration as one of the 30 Boston Consulting Group AI report use cases in Greece. We contribute to the SME focus group on AI, a policy making, if you like, or consultancy towards policy making group of the European Union that started with 40 members from all around Europe, and we were one of those. We are contributing through our members to the AI and data policy scientific domain sectorial, let's say, scientific council. And we have trained more than 1,500 people in AI so far. Now, I will leave the rest, I think. Let me see. Okay, Alex, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. I'm also happy to be here and see so many people in our presentation. I will present what we do regarding artificial intelligence, but I would like to highlight that when you build AI, or when you exploit, you collaborate with a researcher to exploit an algorithm or his work in order to make a product, you need a wide range of skills on your team. So you usually need the researcher. Maybe I will give you an example. I will demonstrate Jedi. This is an AI library. It was not implemented by SciFY. It is an AI library for a task in artificial intelligence that it's called entity resolution, which can be used to find duplicate records. So if you have 1 million records and one name has small variations, I don't know, it could be SciFY with Y or SciFY with I's if it has some syntactic or grammatic errors. This library is able to identify them. So in order to disseminate and make this product successful, you need someone who knows how to convert your research results into a product. Okay, so this could be, for example, a product designer or a person who has user experience or user designer skills, because this will be this will create something that is attractive, that is appealing to see. This is the first skill. And then you also need data engineering and data engineers. So AI expertise is not enough. It needs to accompany it by other skills in order to produce, let's say, a website that disseminates your work, or an application that integrates your work itself. So switching back, I want to say that our team consists of data engineers or software engineers, of people who have UI, UX, can build a product, and do the proper copywriting. So name your algorithm in a way that is easily to be remembered, like Jedi, like what I have already shown you. And you need all of these people collaborating. So I'm not sure how many of the students are at this moment engineers or would like to find a job in this. I'm just saying that we are very open into discussing collaboration opportunities. So if you want to send us your CV later, we would be happy to receive them and discuss them. So closing all the parentheses and coming back to SciFY, regarding AI, I would say that we classify our work into 4 different categories. The first one is technology transfer of research results. And technology transfer means that we take an algorithm, a research result, and try to match it with a society need. Okay, it could be a need from an organization, or it could be a generic need that people have. We create AI solutions. This is also usually mentioned as digital transformations. It's when you automate the work of a business. So I will give you examples where manual work have been made to process legal documents, but this manual work, which was very boresome actually, was automated via AI. And finally, SciFY has a holistic approach for AI. So in all of these, we do education activities in order to engage and people and make them understand what AI is about, or make them understand how they can use AI, because at this moment it is a buzzword. So many people refer to something as AI, even though it could be a simple set of rules, or it could be business intelligence, as we say in the data engineers. It could be a set of statistics and reports that can help you make a decision, which is not AI. So I'll start providing some examples. I think I have maybe 10 minutes. The first is an example of a technology transfer of research results. It's an application called NewSum that you can download it from Android. What this application does is we utilize algorithms that summarize information. They summarize textual information. So it is in the domain of natural language processing. And what it really does, it could find 2,000 news articles from the past week, let's say from the popular websites. And these 2,000 articles, each article could be from a different website. This algorithm is able to summarize and find the identical articles that are talked by different news agencies. So it is able to act as a news aggregator, identify that one topic is referred by, it has 5 mentions, is referred by 5 articles, and is able to create a summary. And this summary is actually a collection of sentences. Okay, so the algorithm is smart enough to remove the duplication. If you have 5 articles, all of them commenting and discussing the same topic, the algorithm will select the different parts from each article. And the impressive about this work is that it is multilingual. That even if the articles are in the Arabic language, or in the Chinese language, or in the Greek language, it is able to do this, produce this summary. And of course, as I said, this is an AI algorithm, which is a small part of an application. And the application could be either a news aggregator like NewSum. It could be an application used by a news agency. Αθηναϊκό Πρακτορείο Ειδήσεων, for example, could use this as a product to have a look and explore all the articles that I mentioned during the previous months. Or it could be exposed as an API to be consumed by other developers. So this is the first example of how you can take an algorithm produced in, this one was produced, this project is collaboration with Demokritos, but it was produced in the Institute of Technology, and how you can make a product out of it. Let me see another example. Okay, again, related with what SciFY does. We disseminate and educate AI across several domains. So an example is workshops that we have done in the past in the natural science. So we talked about AI in materials and life science and applications, or AI in environmental science, or interaction between quantum computing and AI. So usually these workshops produces ideas, because someone from the Institute of Nanotechnology is an expert in his domain. But if you talk to him 4 hours just to give him the high level things that you can do with AI, that you can do categorization of things, that you can do clustering of things, that you can identify patterns. If you explain these things, then collaborations start happening through brainstorming, okay? An example is this Erasmus Plus project, AIIS, where we educate people involved in the healthcare, medical students, or people who work in the hospital and make decisions. We educate them on what is AI and how they can think about projects that could improve and create the hospital of the future. Okay, another example regarding AI solutions and digital transformations. So at this moment, we have a broad spectrum of clients, from the telecom industry to the publishing industry, fintech organizations. Here we have a paper that was written, or it was a collaboration between Demokritos, SciFY, and Νομική Βιβλιοθήκη. Νομική Βιβλιοθήκη is a company that produces legal books, but they also have some applications that they sell to lawyers. And Νομική Βιβλιοθήκη had the need to process and categorize thousands of legal documents. Actually, they were unable to do it because it is months or years of work. Because actually, it's hundreds of thousands, ranging from, I think, 1995 up to now. So what we did is we did co-design. And co-design means that making some workshops, some brainstorming workshops to understand what is the need, prioritizing the needs and prioritizing the difficulty also, because it's also good to start with baby steps and start with the easiest things that you can do, because these are the first wins. And the result of this was to build an AI system that automatically categorizes legal documents across, I think, 10,000 categories, which also had the impressive results and resulted in this paper. I think I will finalize what we do and emphasizing the education part. So we have books about, George has written a book about AI. It is an intro level book for someone who has no involvement with AI. We have built games. This one is fun. It's called Thalis. If you search it,
Alex, sorry to interrupt. I think we can actually have a small demo after we finish. So let's keep it short for now.
Okay, sure. Why not? Of course. So we have the book, some applications that are educative ones and demonstrators. This one is how you can build a robot that can use decision trees to distinguish apples from oranges. We also have SciFY Academy. These are monthly events where we talk about either AI or other topics in the spectrum of what SciFY does. So it could be AI talks, it could be product engineering, it could be digital marketing, and this happens once per month. Let me see. Okay, the final one, again, it's regarding education and the holistic approach that we use. We have an initiative that's called 1000 Pioneers for AI in Greece. This is sponsored, you can see the organizations, and we do this with Ahead from Demokritos. It is a main partner, and Idrima Laskaridis. The goal there is to find 1000 people and educate them across Greek industries. So it could be citizens, it could be C-level executives in a company, or it could be engineers. Okay, and these take the form of workshops. I think we have already trained 60 people, and it is an ongoing process. Again, this is relating with a holistic approach, because through these workshops, people can understand the negative aspects of AI, the ethics of AI, what AI is, and they usually in these workshops express their needs. So these needs are converted to projects that can have an impact in their organizations.
Alex, if I can contribute a little to that.
Yeah.
For us, this is it's a very big bet, but I think it will be a successful one. This has already been discussed in the European community and the Commission. For example, we did a small talk, a short talk into the digital skill lab project of the EU, which is about upskilling people regarding emerging technologies. So I simply said, in 5 minutes what we are doing in 1,000 pioneers, and there was strong interest from the EU. So we know we are actually ourselves pioneers. So, and when I say ourselves, I do not refer only to SciFY, right? This is simply a community achievement if we manage to pull this through. So as Alex said, the aim of this is to create people who have them to let's say co-develop an understanding with the people of what AI is about, but also what AI we want to have in the future. Because one thing I stress everywhere, in the book you saw before, in all my talks, is that we co-develop and co-create artificial intelligence. It does not, as we know, it does not get developed in a laboratory and everything is done there and it comes out ready. No, this does not. And if you remember what I said about technology transfer, if people do not accept something, it will simply fail, regardless of the innovation and the effort put there. So 1,000 Pioneers is about building a sustainable AI-enabled future where artificial intelligence-aware people can integrate artificial intelligence as they mean to into their society. Okay, so it's, as I said, a big bet, but already we have seen things happening. And in the near future, we plan also to create innovation projects where you will have multidisciplinary teams, but not only multidisciplinary, but multi-role teams. So people could be not even, untrained or technically, let's say, minimally literate to support these things, as long as they want to contribute, because this is the way you build trust in society. So we try to keep things very simple, but what essentially we said is that SciFY co-creates AI and innovates using AI. I use always this co-creation, as I said, not as a buzzword, but in essence, the essence of what we are doing. So we work with scientists, with citizen groups, with businesses, and we co-create solutions. To do this, and this is one of the reasons we are in very close contact with Demokritos, which is an excellent place to be this time, at this time, especially in the artificial intelligence aspect, and of course other disciplines, but I'm very happy to be now as part of the IIT, of Institute of Telecommunications and Informatics and Telecommunications, because we are bringing this change also to the research domain. And this workshop that Alexandros showed you before, Natural Sciences and AI, Natural Sciences and Technology in AI, was co-developed, let's say, supported by Demokritos and by SciFY, because we understand both aspects, and of course by lots of people. Now, so we co-create and innovate using AI. We apply AI-related technology transfer in action, bringing things as products to the community. We train and empower organizations with AI. And when I say organizations, I mean there are trainings in research centers. There are trainings, as we said, with doctors. There are trainings to the public. We disseminate related research results. This is one of the things that originally we did not plan explicitly, but I think it has come up quite often in our agenda, let's say, based on the needs from the researchers. And we also build innovative AI ecosystems. And I think this is also very aligned to the Greek AI strategy, as I was happy to have contributed there as part of the Demokritos team. So these ecosystems are, let's say, a basic need to be able to create human-centric, trustworthy AI, to be able to achieve what we call democratization of AI, actually creating processes and interactions that allow co-creating the AI you want. So thank you very, very much. Alex, if you want to go to the next slide. Thank you very much for your attention. We are very open to questions, and of course, feel free to contact us. You will find us in Demokritos or at Lefkipos, because SciFY for the last, I think, 2 years has been at Lefkipos. So we actually changed our base from TCO, which was amazing, to Demokritos, which is amazing. But it also enables us to introduce ourselves to more researchers, to other companies in this very vibrant ecosystem of Lefkipos. So thank you very, very much. And open to questions.
Thank you, George. Thank you, Alexandros. George, you mentioned something about a demo. I don't know if is that going to happen?
Of course, we can do this. So Thalis, again, is a co-development where we collaborate with Demokritos, of course. So this is a nice young robot here. And the idea is that you want to train people to understand how machines appear to think. So Thalis here, it's all Greek to you, I know, it's the same for me, says, I don't know anything, but I can learn. And we show apples and oranges to Thalis, and we ask him what this is. And he says, I don't really know. So we started to say, this is an apple, right? Bring me another fruit, and what is this? This is actually an orange. But Thalis thinks he knows what this is. I say, what is it? An apple. No, Thalis, this is an orange. And I will do this a couple of times more. This is an apple. We take also weird apples, right? Golden apples. And another one here. So this is an orange, and another one. Now I can. What do you think, Thalis? But still, this is an apple. But what do you have in your mind? And we can actually dive into Thalis' mind and see the kind of rules that the decision tree, the kind behind the thinking, has been created, and how he has learned their own things, like something. Okay, if it's red, then it's apple. But if it's not red, then if it has a stem, then it's an orange. Weird things, right? But this is what we use to show over time that as we train Thalis more and more, Thalis gets to build better rules here. Okay, so he focused now on the color, and so on and so forth. This has allowed us to train hundreds of students, actually. So the idea here is that we have trained hundreds of students in collaboration, for example, with Iraklidon Museum downtown in Thision, to understand what machine learning is about, right? So made it really plain, simply in their own understanding and view. But we have, of course, more advanced things and products. I will share again very shortly what we call the Open Comments Analyzer. So the idea here is that we have a big company. This is actually a real use case. It's a pilot. So we have open-ended questions, and I will give an example, and thousands of comments, answers to these questions. And how can we actually, codify this? How can we systematize the study of such things? An example in the Greek setting is, getting open comments in the open government, let's say, portal, where you can express your view on upcoming laws, the open consultation of laws. So the question here, the question there were two questions. What is good in a company? The question was addressed to the employees, who answered in 25 languages. And there were 15,000 responses to an open-ended question. You cannot imagine how big a challenge it is to be able to systematize the study of this comments. So what we did here, we did some basic natural language processing. We created what is called a word cloud, if you see here. What are the main words that appear? And for example, you would see that what is good? Family. And this word appeared in 2.65% of the whole set of documents, of answers. So, but what does this mean? If I click onto that, it says that this term family was found close to SciFY. We have anonymized, we say that the company was SciFY. It's not, we are not in 25 countries yet. And if I delve more into that, you will see that it says SciFY is a big family. The SciFY family. These are, and you will see that they come from different languages. So this was expressed in Italy, in the Russian Federation, so on and so forth, and perhaps Germany, the same more or less coexistence of terms. What this allows us to do is somehow to go, and I can export this to an Excel file, so on and so forth. So the idea here is that I can skim, actually quickly delve into 15,000 responses in 25 languages and actually get actionable understanding of what is happening there. I kept this very short just to provide, to demonstrate the dynamics, the potential of such a thing. And of course, I think we can, of course, start answering questions.
What do you think is the key turning parameter that can accelerate the adoption of AI by Greek businesses? And the second question is how one can face the fact that 90% of Greek businesses, actually very small and very fragmented, cannot pay the initial development cost of an AI tool or application?
Now, there are several ways to do this. One thing, as I said, is if people do not have an understanding of what AI means for them, they will not be able to even start touching the topic. So the first basis is understand what AI can do. Now, to do this, you can either try to search out for material or make sure that your company starts with a dedicated workshop. So in ahead, Demokritos, SciFY in ahead, as part of, let's say, the umbrella project of 1,000 pioneers, we train businesses. So we provide 2-day targeted workshops, exhausting but amazing workshops, where top executives or from other levels of the company, from different levels of the company, understand that AI is about a strategic decision, understanding how they can take advantage of AI and the risks, as Alex said before, but also forming their AI-enabled roadmap for a year. So one thing, this training allows them to focus and understand what need they already have can be or cannot be faced by AI. So this training is critical. The second fact here is that so essentially you start by outsourcing and creating quick wins. Perglis actually, who made the question here, has been applying data mining techniques for, I don't know, the last 20 years, 30 years, without knowing it was data mining. So what happens usually is you have a small successful project that brings in, increases productivity. So it brings in to play added time for your people or reduced costs, which allows you to do a second step and invest further. So it is a step-by-step process. Alexandros already said that. This is always the case in transformation, and especially since in many cases you have to change the culture. But so that I can somehow, show that it's not only about, high-tech companies that digital transformation can be achieved, I would say this. I made an interview. I'm consulting for an EU project related to digital upskilling, as I said. So I conducted an interview. And the company there was a traditional pasta manufacturing, let's say, a family business that has been running for, I don't know, decades on a specific pasta, the Rostichella d'Abruzzo. I think that their products are also available in English, right? So these guys have ended up from a traditional pasta company being showcased as top AI and blockchain-enabled companies around Italy and perhaps even in Europe. How did they do this? Step by step, one step at a time. So again, one aspect is they can start with training, but then how do you find as I said, the funds? Do small steps that will bring you in the money to this. But there are also other options, open calls and digital innovation hubs. So digital innovation hubs, as the one we have in the Demokritos ahead, and others that will be built very soon, hopefully, allow opportunities for collaboration to the SMEs, because typically these are SME organizations, so they can somehow get a voucher, imagine, that pays the bill for example, for the research center that will contribute to consulting to create the first AI integrations. So I think this is a very good start for me. And now in the Demokritos, we also have capabilities and in other places, but I know more about Demokritos, okay? So there is this test before invest. Try to run a small pilot to see the feasibility, the challenges, and estimate the cost of scaling up so that you do not need to invest the full set of money from the beginning. And of course, outsourcing to experts that we have in this, many people work on AI, can help a lot.
Thank you, George. How do you choose the projects that you will carry out? And another question from Theo Zacharis is, are your webinars widely available? Does one have to pay to participate? How do they take place?
Thank you very much, and thank you, Theo, for the question. So let me answer them in quick succession, and of course, Alex, you can cut me whenever you want. So, two things. Typically, we have, let's say, the strongly not-for-profit aspect, but still there we have to have sustainability. So for accessible technologies or AI and accessibility, what we do is as I said, we invest some of our own time and money and effort to build an ecosystem, and then we start prioritizing projects through specific processes we have. One of those, let's say, features that allows us to converge to what makes sense to start is the impact and the sustainability. Sustainability means being able to bring in the money. As I said, we have internal processes from our very early stages. We had internal processes for new ideas. If it's simply an idea, right? Then we have lots of ideas. This was our original problem. We could not really focus. But then we created processes that allow us to converge. But now things have changed a little. People come with needs directly now. And there, the only challenge is whether you can find the people to support this. As I said, for 8 people we have now, we are doing much, much more than one would have expected. And this is why I think we are going to grow soon. As Alex said, we have this need. And our pillars for decision are impact, sustainability, and current community behind it to make it sure, to make it possible. These are the 3 main things. Now, what are your clients that we mentioned? So, as we said, we've been working with Bibliotheki. I'm giving examples, right? With Cosmote, we have worked together with OPCO, with anyway, lots of providers out there, and I can say more. Where we work for completely different things, but also many SMEs and startups and the civil society community as part of projects. To work with, we've also worked with researchers, right, to bring dissemination results, so on and so forth. So it's quite a long list of clients. So I will not, say everything. I'm just trying to break it down into groups of people. I don't know if I forgot some specific, very important. And of course, with the policy-making bodies that are now integrating, we have a very recent, let's say, contract with a very central European community organization regarding innovation. And we are working with them to build somehow data analysis related solutions. Okay, so we go all the levels from startups to existing big companies in Greece and perhaps abroad to institutions and research centers. And now, considering the webinars, the SciFY Academy aspect is typically for free. And we are planning to make it this way, to keep it this way. And we have lots of very interesting sessions for SciFY Academy that was somehow had been reduced in the last year due to the COVID crisis, but we are somehow re-enabling it. So we are coming strongly with new SciFY sessions in the next few months. These are open, but we also have the 1,000 pioneers, let's say, aspect of training the public. There we have a very small fee, entry fee. It has been possible to have this very small entry fee because we have our sponsors. And also it allows us to understand who is really motivated. But there are also business trainings, and these trainings are custom solutions. So as I said before, we aim for specific companies, custom designed workshops that end up with a specific output, a strategic output. And this is the joint effort with Demokritos. There is a custom offer for the specific trainings, right? You can visit the ahead Digital Innovation Hub website to learn more. I think I answered to everything that you said.
Then we have a question, how does one get to work in the AI field, specifically computer scientist? What do they need as a postgraduate education?
I would say no, but it also depends. So there is a tendency, I think, of actually the AI market is maturing. So there are tools online that don't require deep expertise, or you don't need a PhD to apply AI. So the first approach for a computer science graduate is to see what big companies offer. For example, Azure has a cognitive API, if I remember correctly, that you can use it to detect things on voice or on images. This one doesn't really require you to know AI because the AI model is already built there, or it requires minimum knowledge of AI. So I would say that you can start with this. You definitely need to start studying to understand the terminology, but there are a plethora of online courses. And if you want, it really depends on how you learn. Some people do prefer a degree because it's very well structured. But I also believe that if you already work as a software engineer, you need to have a plan to start working with teams that involve AI or similar to AI. It could be data mining, it could be business intelligence. You should find entry points in your career to start working in a team that could grow to an AI role. So that's my response. George, I don't know if you want to complement, since
Yes,
you are also teaching data science.
No, I fully agree with what Alex said, but I have to add something more. So typically having an MSc provides, let's say, the theoretical background and strong, and the wide spectrum of understanding. You know, it's similar to, should I get to a technical school or to I don't know, to university? Having the theory behind what you are planning to do beforehand allows you to easily systematize the knowledge that you will gain also through experience. So I would say the following. Now, how easy is the question? Is it for computer science graduates to work in the AI field? It's easy. But how successful will the graduate be? And if it will be a long or a short story? It's about eagerness to learn, right? But this is everywhere. It's not only in AI. It has nothing different, I would say, the AI aspect. It could be equally important to get to know a framework like Angular or whatever, a web development framework. The big difference here is the following, as I said. What we always say to new companies, to companies, we train, not new, we say, don't simply bring a junior in expecting them to do everything as they should. So as George Paluras knows, as many of the people present here, there is so much learning process, forever ongoing learning process regarding the research part. So if you use AI tools as a black box, you will most probably fail. You need to understand and to make it evolve. This is mostly possible through study. If it's academic, perhaps it can be more systematized and useful, but this can happen also the hard way through experience. So I would suggest the following. If someone needs to do a very small project, it could be okay to use simply software engineering experience. But if you want to really become an AI engineer, so there are roles out there, or a data scientist, it means getting your hands dirty, but having some theoretical background. So again, I agree with what Alex said. You can start by studying yourself, but if you really want to get serious about this, I think you should do an MSc. And it's one of the rare cases, I think, because previously it was not the same, where having a PhD in artificial intelligence can offer added value. Something like 15 to 20 years ago, when I started I was thinking of going to a PhD, I actually had a comment from a friend who was a company owner saying, why do you want to do this? You are getting out of the industry if you do this, if you get a PhD. This is not the case any longer with artificial intelligence, right? And the opportunities that come through gaining a specific a master's or a PhD is that you can also become somehow part of the showcase that startups need to prove their worth, their merit, to show that we have the know-how. So there are different roles you can take if you go mostly about AI, the engineering aspect, but also AI in the wider theoretically aware aspect. So choosing whether you need to carry out an MSc is mostly a kind of orientation towards, let's say, shorter or longer investment plans on AI.
I would just like to add to this that the Institute is involved in 2 master's courses, one for data science and one for artificial intelligence. And the one for artificial intelligence was the first one, I think, in Greece of its kind. Now the last question is about the access of Greek businesses to relevant data or freely available data, which is difficult. How does this affect the possibility to do AI?
Quite simplistically, I would say that the first step that one needs to understand is the need. So we have this expectation of big data. We should forget about it. In Europe even, the typical cases are SMEs. And it's not only here, right? So we only think of giants of data, like, I don't know, the big companies related to data, and we think this is the only case where machine learning makes sense. No, it doesn't. Even in sciences like physics, where lots of data are produced, there is a wide variety of cases where little data is given. So our suggestion is the following: start gathering data. No, there are two steps. Identify the data we have. Even the emails of a company can be critical value. The knowledge of people in the company can be of critical value. So what we do to surpass this, so the question makes sense, right? But little data doesn't mean useless data. It means 2 things. One, make sure you identify the data in your company. As I said, even emails or everyday recordings in a journal, in a handwritten journal, can be critical about knowledge management, for example. The description of processes in a company in itself is of value to train new people and reduce the cost of training. So there are lots of different ways to empower a company through AI. Gathering data means understanding per process what data are produced and making sure you gather them in a meaningful manner that will cover a specific need. So in our workshops, training workshops, typically a few of the projects for a company in this roadmap for the company integration of AI is about putting into place the infrastructure for data gathering. So Dimitris, I see, made the question. Dimitris, the answer is that you need to identify the data, put processes in place, understand whether there exist other sources. So getting open data sets, typical, or even commercial data sets that you buy, typically will not do your job. You need to annotate yourself. So putting annotation processes as part of your AI integration can be critical. So you identify, generate new data or fine-tune existing data, and you forget everything you knew about Kaggle and whatever other data repositories you have been doing, perhaps in a master's or playing, in a demo online. Because 80% of the effort of machine learning is about cleaning the data. Okay, so this can happen. Greek businesses can take advantage of their data, but you need to go step by step. So in your strategy, you will need to take into account the amount of data you have, whether they be a few or more, to design corresponding projects for AI integration. And this is doable.
Thank you both. Thank you, George. Thank you, Alexandre. I think it was a great discussion, and I think for me the best criterion for a successful discussion is the fact that I don't have enough time to make my own questions. It happened again, and that's a good sign.
Thank you, George, for everything, and all the team behind. Bye bye.
Thanks too. Bye bye.